It's dangerous to go alone. Take this. What is it? It's a game because we're throwing some chairs at it. And because I've been contractually obligated or mandated to do this, the Chairquisition. What is it? It's a place where we sometimes devs send us some games, sometimes we buy games. We play them. We give them the Rochambeau, maybe do a little QA that the devs should have done before they actually put the game out. And we're gonna throw some chairs at Songbringer. It's from Wizard Fu Games. It's developed on the Couscous 2D-X engine, which is really high in fiber, I assume. You can pick it up for around 20 of your local currency. What is it? Songbringer is the sci-fi RPG with swords, secrets, dungeons, bosses, and stuff. All sorts of stuff. You play as the protagonist and accidental hero Roq. And I'm not gonna even bother with that one. Yeah, with the propensity for partying and making music, he cruises the galaxy with a skybot jib aboard the ship Songbringer in search of verdant planets in the absence of the presence of galactic police. So this guy's Mick Jagger. When Roq finds the nanosword hidden on Ekzera, he unwittingly awakens an ancient evil. The sword is pretty sweet, though. It hums. It does make some legitimate lightsaber noise. Basically, this is Hipster Pixel Zelda, except worse. Devs did send us some keys for that, so let's kick off the Chairquisition. We rate everything on a scale from 1 to 4 chairs. 1 chair means that's garbage. 2 chairs means that's meh. 3 chairs means that's pretty good. 4 chairs means that's awesome. And we got our categories of doom, makes with the working, shiny, sounds, controls, and fun. So let's toss some chairs at Songbringer. We'll turn it up, bring the noise, then make with the working.
Well, let's take a look over here on a new Box of Business 2.0 Tipsy Danger, with an AMD Ryzen 1700 clocked at 3.7 gigajoules, 16 gigabytes of RAM, powered with a 980 displayed at UHD. Didn't have any issues out of the box, Brad, except for one. Really the only thing I can say, you don't expect a hipster pixel game to really have any issues, except maybe some resolution issues, and this one kinda did. I can't get it to go completely full screen using XFCE 412. It won't overtake my taskbar and my launcher bar. It just won't. Nothing I can do. Not really complaining because let's set 28 inches. Giggity. It's big enough. You really don't want to stretch it out too much further. So, rocking that out with 3 chairs.
Yeah, on Fedora 2664-bit on the i7 6700K and the GTX 980, no real issues. I didn't have that thing that Ben ran into with the window full screen thing. Also tried that out on the Steam box, the A1050 5800K and the GTX 750 Ti. No real issues there. I'd give it a solid 4 chairs.
Oh, hang on. Burp.
Burp.
Yeah. Over here, I did have an issue. Not entirely sure this is how the game is supposed to work, and judging by the fact that no one else seems to have run into, probably not. But whenever I start the game, it tells me to hold up on the controller, and I do. I grab my Steam controller, and I hold up, or I push the analog stick all the way up. And then, the moment it's done with that, it starts the Steam controller configuration tool and minimizes the game. So then you close the configuration tool and the game doesn't re-maximize itself or re-full screen. It just stays minimized, which means you then need to go click it on the taskbar and bring it back up. If every time I start your game, you're quite literally shoving something else in my face and hiding said game, I'm not going to be starting your game too many times. That's just a warning. But with taking that into account on the FX8370E with the 1080, it ran well enough, so it gets 3 chairs.
All right, well, that's 3 chairs for Mix with the Working. I actually ran into a similar issue with the on-screen keyboard. I just thought I was hitting the key cord for the on-screen keyboard, and I may have been. Anyway, shiny and sounds. Ben, how'd this game look and or sound?
Take a look at it, baby. It's kind of awesome. It's hipstery. It's pixel. But it's what I like to call hipster pixel done right. It's right there in your face organ. Just look at it, burning through your rod cells, your cone cells, melting your brain. Again, it's done right. I like the look. I mean, it's true to form. It's cohesive. It's colorful. You know, it's not a pixel brown simulator. It's a little bit blurry. It's a little bit. I could imagine this is what would pass for an extremely high-end NES game. Down with, I kind of went, whoa, look, pixel reflections in the water. Oh, I bet developers wish they could do that back in the day. So yeah, I like it. I like what it does. I like how it looks. I can't say anything negative about it. And I can say something doubly positive about those sounds, man. Do yourself a favor and put on your headset, because I don't know what it is. I think Jordan kind of hit it. If it's like techno oons or something done in a chiptunes. I like that. Chiptune style. That works. I don't know why it works. Maybe. I don't know. But I dig it. I made it a point. The bit I've gotten to play it this week. Listen, I'm not jamming out to it, but I'm really liking it. And everything's well done. Everything's well done. Nothing to complain about. So I'm going to roll this thing straight out with 4 not hipster pixel chairs.
I honestly think the game's kind of fugly, to be perfectly honest. Like, god diggity damn. It looks like they were trying to go with like the same sort of visual aesthetic that Hyperlight Drifter or Super Brothers Sword and Sorcery went with. But I don't know. It may have been the screens I've been playing on, but it just kind of looks kind of crappy and blurry. Some of the lighting effects don't work all that well, and they just kind of look bad. Especially when there's lots of like enemies on the screen, it's kind of hard to tell what you're swinging at too, just because everything's kind of this darkish clump. Especially when you get into some of the dungeons, when you don't have a persistent light source, it just gets particularly egregious. The soundtrack doesn't really do anything for me either. I mean, like, there's sort of like the not Zelda noises when you finish a room or you get a chest. It goes like, which is like not quite the Zelda noise, I guess. It's just enough to skirt copyright. It's a nice little touch, but the wubs don't really do it. I had to knock the volume down significantly just because I was not enjoying the soundtrack at all. But it started off as like really annoying and eventually kind of ground me down to just a minor nuisance, I guess. It shows things on the screen. It plays sounds when you swing your sword, and it plays music. So it doesn't get 1 chair, but it does get 2.
Yeah, I honestly don't like the hipster pixels on this one either. But seeing as this is a one-man job, yeah, this game was built by the one person. The actual meat of the game itself is perfectly acceptable, but more on that later. I'm kind of sort of willing to give him a pass on this one. The sounds, that's where it's at. The chiptune music can get a bit annoying at times. I won't say it doesn't, because it does. It genuinely does. But for the most part, it really does a good job setting the mood. The atmosphere is very much, at least I feel that it's very much enhanced by the chiptunes, and that's a good thing. It's like Hyperlight Drifter level good chiptunes. And sound effects, also pretty good. Very meaty style sound effects, and your sword just sounds a lot like a lightsaber. So, yeah, 3 chairs.
Yeah, that's 3 chairs for Shiny and Sounds. Up next is Controls.
Hey, I guess I'm next, man. Exclude controller worked out of the box, no issues. Up went up, down went down, left went right. And kind of dig it. Everything's logically laid out. If you're looking at the video, it clearly tells you what button does what. I don't know if it changes if you hook it up to a PS4 or what type of nightmare fuel might happen with the Steam controller. But I can say, personal experience, Exclude controller, no issues. Nothing to complain about. Controls are tight. Normally, this is where a lot of these games, if they look really nice and everything else is going on right, they kind of fall apart. But it works. Maybe would like a slight bit more accuracy when attacking enemies, but there's not enough to legitimately say, oh, that's broken, because it's not. So you can do a solid 4 and go to bed at night.
Oh yeah, no, the controls are real solid here. They're responsive. There's no real scenario in which I feel like, oh, I pressed the button and I got bullshitted into losing some health. It even picks out what controller you have when you start up the game. It'll show you a little icon for a PlayStation 4 controller or an Xbox controller. And if you have a Steam controller plugged in, it'll show you the thing for Xbox controller, and then there'll be a small picture of a Steam controller in the lower hand corner. The prompts, though, do at least in whatever mode I was using a Steam controller in, they show up as keyboard keys, because for whatever reason I think it's in like keyboard mouse emulation mode or something. But everything works beyond that. You can basically assign whatever you want to one of the face buttons in terms of equipment, so you can find your style and go around with it. No issues whatsoever. I'll give it straight 4 chairs.
Yeah, it's actually one of the things, like Jordan already mentioned. With the Steam controller, it's not exactly the same as the Xbox prompts that it gives you, because all the buttons in the Steam controller are blue along the prompts. If you're looking at the video right now, along the bottom, the prompts are blue. But if you have an Xbox controller, or in my case, the Logitech F310, you actually get like the proper color code for those buttons. And apparently, if you're using a DualShock, it also recognizes that, so that's actually really, really interesting. I have never heard of this engine, but apparently there should be some SDL magic too happening in the background, so good on them for that. 4 chairs.
Yeah, no, for sure, no real issues with the controls here. But finally, let's put a bow on it. Ven, did you have fun playing Songward?
Yeah, man. Full disclaimer.
Or Songbringer. Yeah.
Hey, man. Don't be my sunshine with my summertime and all that. Full disclaimer, I might have enjoyed this game a lot more than I normally would have, because it's really the only thing I had a chance this week to play, because it was technically something that had to get done. And I liked it. This thing does a lot of stuff right. Right from the get-go at the launch, it does make you curious to the story, engaging. So what's going on here? Is this just a little, am I going to walk around and kill a couple of things, and that's all going to be like that Hipster Pixel 2D platformer we played a little while back that Strider really loved. This makes you curious as hell, probably within the first 5 minutes, and it gives you little treats. It's like, oh, here's your sword. Oh, here's a top hat. All right, I have a powered magical top hat. That's also a thing. That's kind of brilliant. And the upgrade progression, you can already see where that's going to go. You got a little bot that's kind of psychotic. You run into the pig dude. He's doing a thing. He's like, man, I need some liquor. He hooks you up. Then you got your map. You know how the old school maps work. All that's going good. It's kept me engaged. And if I had to knock it for one thing, but I'm just at the beginning. The enemies seem kind of random as hell. And it's like, I kind of like this enemy, so I'll smatter some here, smatter some here. The boss fights, not a whole lot to them, but the bosses are well done, genuinely kind of creepy. And you can see there's just a lot more to unlock. I want to see what the actual playtime for me, the playthrough time, is going to be for this game. Because you start getting new abilities, and you're getting them at a quick enough pace to where it's keeping me engaged, like the ability to jump 3 steps ahead and all that fun stuff. So yeah, having a good time with it. And, $19.99 one-person project. Is it Dust and Elysian Tale? No, it's not. Is it a hipster pixel game? Abso-fucking-lutely it is. Is it lazily done? No, it's amazing for a one-person project. And, yeah, good on it. It is something I'm glad exists. And even with the humor, most of it hits, doesn't knock it out of the park, but definitely good enough for government work, and just a fantastic job all around. I feel comfortable giving this one a 3.
I mean, it's an ugly Zelda game. It's the ugliest Zelda game on Linux, but it's not actually terrible. One of the cooler things I watched last year on YouTube was Pro Jared doing a randomized version of Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, and that was really interesting because it just changed the location of all the items. And so even if you knew the game backwards and forwards, you didn't know where everything was, and you still had to explore. And I think this game does that really, really well. With the name that you pick is a random seed for the game that you play. So every time you pick a new name, you get something different. Yeah, mine was fuck, but either way. Either way, it's interesting because it gives everyone a different experience, and it really does encourage exploration. Because I didn't even find the first dungeon. I stumbled into the second dungeon, accidentally beat it. Stumbled into the 7th dungeon, realized I was missing some items, went looking for stuff, stumbled into the 4th dungeon, found the bombs that I needed to progress in the 7th dungeon, went back, and now I'm clearing that out. And this is fairly typical from my experience playing Zelda, right? You don't have to do everything in order. There's some stuff where it requires specific pieces of equipment, but it does require you to actually go and engage with the game, which is really good. The visuals though really, really kind of spoil it for me. There are these long cinematics that I really don't care about. They're not particularly well animated. I feel the writing fell a little flat for me. Everything seems kind of dark, which is annoying when you get into dungeons, especially like in the 7th dungeon where it's just super dark all the time and you can't see shit and you just start losing health. You're like, why is this? Oh, if I swing my sword, something died. So clearly there's something here. I don't know. There's a good game in here, and maybe if you get one of the good seeds and you get a very sort of straightforward experience, your experience will be different. I don't know. That it is kind of compelling to get the sense that every playthrough will be different. The game that I played is different from the game that Pedro played and Ben played, and so on and so forth. So that is definitely interesting. I'm gonna give it 2 chairs. It's not great, but it does some good stuff. It does some interesting things, and I think it deserves some credit for it.
All right. Well, I never really liked Zelda. I kept reading. I kept reading about this game being compared to Zelda, and by looking at it, it struck me about as much Zelda as Hyper Light Drifter or even Salt and Sanctuary. And I thought to myself, that's not really a fair comparison to make. Well, I was wrong. This shit's pretty much Zelda, with some rogue elements. There's permadeath, if you want. All the levels are randomized, they're seed-based. And there's a complete and utter disregard for level design because it's actually very hard to navigate at points because of all that random generation. But you know what? That's fine. I like me some roguelike elements. I like me some roguelike games. If introducing those into a game that's shouting, I want to be Link to the Past so goddamn much, if that helps me enjoy a Zelda clone, then by all means, introduce them. But it doesn't. Legend of Zelda may have started a genre or subgenre, and it's still very successful to this day, but Songbringer isn't doing enough work from that basis and still differentiate itself in any significant way. Oh yeah, it's the hipster pixel. Fugly hipster pixel. It's got roguelike elements, okay? It's even got a story that's trying to be deliberately campy for the lulz. It wasn't working for me. And yeah, none of this is working for me. It's not making me like this Zelda clone type game. I'm not one of those nostalgia-ridden lumps of carbon that goes about life longing for the past. I like new things. Give me new things, new concepts, new games, something for me to play that is not just a blatant nostalgia grab. So for me, it gets 2 chairs because I will recognize its competence in what it can do and the simple fact that no 2 people will ever play the exact same game. And that right there is not just for multiple people, but for multiple playthroughs. That is a very good thing for a video game to have. And the fact that it doesn't lead you down a corridor and say, this is the story you're going to experience, period. No, you can literally take on any of the dungeons in any order, so long as you're good enough for it. All of the, usually the stuff that is blocked out is only blocked out if it's optional, so you can basically get through the story without even hitting any of the blocked out areas. So it's not horrible, but it's still not selling me on the Zelda subgenre. So it gets 2 chairs.
All right, well, that's 2 chairs for fun total. We tally all this up, and lo and behold, Songbringer gets 3 chairs. Take that, Strider. Final thoughts?
Shit. Where is the... God damn it. I've actually lost it. There it is. Not sure.
Hey!
Okay, yeah, man. Straight up, check it out. So, gentlemen, final thoughts on this. Yeah, $20. Listen, I've probably played the original Zelda a dozen times. I've probably never put more than a full hour into it. This, even with a random generation, man, I can't find anything to hate on. It's like, yeah, all right. And Jordan, with the flashback, with the cutscenes, it's like, yeah, that's story. It's trying to explain what happened and why you're here and how you met the bot and all that.
Zelda did that with minimal text. Minimal!
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually one of the things that this game does have is a lot of text and a lot of campy dialogue. No.
Yep, two things that are great, and unfortunately these hipsters can't appreciate and read.
Yeah, sure. Let's go with that. It's an all right game. Someone said to themselves they wanted to make a Zelda game, and they made a Zelda game. we get the multiple angles. Ooh, do we get the shot reverse shot with the middle fingers? Can we get that? Can we get all Kuleshov effect on this?
What?
See, this is why you don't give us production values, because then we go around and do shit like that.
Then we immediately go to this shit. Yes, I understand.
Absolutely.